Release the Ayer cut? Is that still a thing now? It could be. I mean, the Ayer cut is in an even more complete form than the Snyder cut was. And of course, despite all the odds stacked up against it, Snyder cut was released on HBOmax. Now, there was bad blood between Snyder and Warner Brothers right up to the last minute, screaming at one another over Green Lantern and all this sort of stuff. But there could be a similar situation here, and especially since Ayer himself has made no bones about it that the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad was not his film, and it's a very similar situation with Snyder. Now, his film, as it is, I imagine, is probably more closer to some plot points of the theatrical one than the Snyder cut was to the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. But that being said, there's clearly more material to it. There's a lot of evidence of that. Ayer himself, and of course Jared Leto talking about the Joker scenes he shot, and then there was different plot details of Joker teaming up with the Enchantress and all this sort of thing. The sad thing about it is that the initial concept was not filmed, and that's the one that did involve the New Gods and was supposed to involve Steppenwolf manipulating the Enchantress and all this sort of thing, which I thought would be a much better idea, certainly for a cohesive nature for the DCEU. But I guess that was canceled or taken out because of Steppenwolf was supposed to be a part of Justice League and all that. But it would have been an interesting thing that he wouldn't be the major player, but it would certainly have his presence there. However, they could have opted for a different New God, and I seem to remember some Q&A with Snyder and whatnot, and a fan suggested Granny Goodness, and Snyder said, oh yeah, well, I guess that could have been cool. And it would have, and they could have, obviously the Mother Box has become a thing, and that was supposed to be weaved through Wonder Woman. There was a scene they cut out where it was revealed that there was some notes or what have you that Etta Candy had, and that sort of nod to it, that this connectivity between them. And there's still connectivity between them, as is, but it's just better this way. And ultimately could have led to a New Gods film, which I think is another thing that kind of torpedoed this, and that other people, Jeff Johns and the like, had other ideas for a New Gods down the road, and then that ended up being given to Ava DuVernay, who is just a political activist filmmaker, really doesn't have any experience with blockbuster superhero action stuff. And then, they brought in Tom King to help her out, and the worst possible writer you could. And well, it's been canned, so I guess it's back to the drawing board for the New Gods, and maybe they'll come around to what we've seen, because we've seen Darkseid in Justice League, and well, it was glorious. So, odds are, yes, this is a better film, especially since everything was rushed at that time. So, whatever David Ayer could come up with to get that going, and how much he shot and what he intended, and it was obviously a much darker film and all this sort of thing. And hopefully it had a more cohesive plot to it about what they were up to, because if it's just a few more scenes of the Joker doing this, and he comes in at the last minute and teams up with Enchantress or what have you. Yeah, but he still had these long, drawn-out scenes of them walking around the city and talking about their feelings and everything. Just not interested in big-budget CW, Although, if it's closer to the Superman and Lois show, well, I might give it a shot. So there's missed opportunities there, but the simple fact of the matter is that it's done. It's sitting there. You've got this streaming service. You could advertise that. It would probably be a lot cheaper for you to do than the Snyder Cut was, which I'm guessing Snyder Cut was obviously the better of the two. But I don't know. There's elements in here that I might not be aware of that he hadn't revealed yet, and it's in there, and it makes it a better film. Everybody crapped on the Jared Leto Joker, but, of what we've seen of him, maybe there's more that justifies it. I don't know. So it just stands to reason that it's probably likely. Now, I was reading, I've been hearing the little snippets here and other YouTubers and whatnot talking about it and saying, hey, I'm hearing stuff. And apparently David Ayer was putting images out from it. here and there. For a while, this is recent, and it's the idea is that it was pretty much shut down, but that was then. This is now Discovery's coming in. There's that merger there, and they just was like, well, put it on there. You know, there's excitement, it appears to be, on social media and whatnot, which is not the best way of metrics, but what other excitement is there? You know, so it could. Let's say they do it. You know, doesn't mean the Snyderverse is restored, not necessarily, but it gets closer and closer to that. And depending on what the Flash movie will be, what's going to happen in that will decide just about everything, more so than even Black Adam or Aquaman. So there's telltale signs for these things. There's competing projects with J.J. Abrams coming in there, and what does he do? Well, he hides behind wokeism to shield his lackluster ideas and plots, in the hopes that that'll maintain his position and not have to compete with people doing material that's closer to the source material. So guess what's going to win, you know? So it's a shame the initial concept would not be a part of it, but yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the Ayer cut, and I don't see why that's such a problem, especially since Ayer himself said, yeah, it's pretty much done. You know, it wouldn't take much, so just stick it on there. You know, it's just an extra thing on HBOmax, and you sign up if you have it, and you get people to come in and see it. And if there's more interest in it, all the better. It gives you a guide and direction of where you want to go. And the nature of the two films now, you had the theatrical release of Suicide Squad, and then you had James Gunn's Suicide Squad. They don't really take that much away from each other. They're different, of course, and whatnot, but you can continue on, even if, unless there's, you know, something else. I mean, I doubt very seriously that Harley Quinn was killed off in the Ayer cut. In fact, apparently, El Diablo, you know, he sacrificed himself in the theatrical release. He died. But apparently in Ayer's version, he didn't. So, you know, there's things like that. So, yeah, just go ahead and release it. It's not, you know, the only thing is the old guard is, once again, more embarrassment for them. And they, you know, they really, it's just, a lot of it is just attitude and whatnot. In the case of Snyder, then, you know, there was some money had to be spent there to finish that thing up. But apparently that is not the case with Ayer's Suicide Squad. And so there's interest, there's desire for it. There's people, you know, hashtag release the Ayer cut and that sort of thing. I don't see it as big as what Snyder Cut was, but it just seems like a logical thing to just go ahead and put that out there and see what people think. You know, I mean, you already put the money in to make it, and you recouped nothing from it because you had to reshoot another version that did make money at the time. But then people were like, yeah, you know, that wasn't really good, you know, and then they all crapped on it, you know, until Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 84, which is Suicide Squad was one of the worst films of the DCU, and those kind of took the title, yeah. And certainly Justice League is worse than Suicide Squad. But just, you know, the curiosity alone, the interest, and I don't see any reason not to do it. Especially with the whole thing about streaming services is that they just wanted so much content. I mean, good Lord, they want Batwoman on there. Stuff like that. And they don't care what the quality is. So what the hell? You know? I mean, the new Suicide Squad movie came and went. It's had its moment. I don't see this as taking anything away from anything else. And so the rumor is from Mikey Sutton is that it's probably going to get released sometime next year. And how true is that? Well, the credibility of it is that it makes sense to do it. Now, the idea that they're going to suddenly announce this in the DC Fandom, which is upon us, I don't know. It's just like Snyder Cut. There was constant rumors about announcements. And, you know, right up to the last minute, there are people say, no, it's done. There's absolutely no chance that's ever going to be released. Just get over it. And the next day it's announced that it's released. So it could be a same situation. It just, when would they announce it? I don't know. Maybe we'll know in a couple of weeks and that'll be that. But but I don't think it's a crazy rumor or anything like that. It could be that just now they're not going to do it. But it actually makes more sense for them to do it than to not. So that's the weight I give it. So we'll see what happens with these things, but it's not an unlikely scenario. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.